In the outskirts of Millbrook, where pine trees cast long shadows over forgotten roads, there stood a crumbling estate that locals avoided after sunset. Rumors swirled through the town about the family who'd vanished within its walls decades ago, and whispers claimed their presence lingered still. Most residents kept their distance, content to let the old place rot in peace. But curiosity has a way of drawing the bold toward danger. 4 college students decided to test the legends for themselves. There was Maya, fearless and determined to document everything. There was Connor, the rational one who dismissed ghost stories as folklore. There was Zoe, whose fascination with the paranormal bordered on obsession. And finally, there was Derek, always chasing the next adrenaline rush. They arrived at twilight, armed with flashlights and cameras, ready to spend the night uncovering whatever secrets lay hidden inside. The moment they crossed the threshold, the temperature dropped. Dust particles danced in their flashlight beams, and ancient wallpaper peeled away like dead skin. Maya pushed forward, her camera rolling as they moved deeper into the estate's belly. Each room they passed felt heavier than the last, as if the air itself was pressing down on them. In what must have been the banquet room, they discovered a dining table still arranged with place settings, though the remains of food had long since decayed into unrecognizable masses. Zoe felt the hair on her neck stand up, certain they were being observed by something just beyond sight. Connor laughed it off, calling it an overactive imagination, though his voice carried less confidence than his words suggested. Then Derek found it, a concealed doorway behind a bookshelf, revealing stone steps descending into blackness below. Despite every instinct screaming at them to leave, they went down. The deeper they traveled, the colder it became. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, each drop echoing like a countdown. Derek grinned, despite the fear gnawing at his gut, while Zoe fought to keep her breathing steady. The basement opened into a maze of underground corridors, each pathway looking identical to the last. Maya pressed on, though doubt was beginning to crack her composure. That's when they heard it. A sound like breathing, or perhaps whispers coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. The ancient voices seemed to call out from the stone itself, incomprehensible but unmistakably human. Panic seized them as they realized they'd lost track of which turns they'd taken. Every corridor looked the same, and the whispers only grew more insistent. Even Connor's skepticism crumbled as pure terror took its place. Time became meaningless in the darkness. Their phone batteries were dying, and exhaustion pulled at their limbs. Just as despair threatened to consume them entirely, they stumbled into a chamber that stole the breath from their lungs. The walls were covered in symbols they couldn't identify, carved deep into the stone. At the room's center stood a stone platform, stained with something dark that had long since dried. As they stepped closer, the air itself seemed to thicken. They weren't alone anymore. Something moved in the shadows, something that radiated malevolence so powerful they could taste it like copper on their tongues. Zoe's blood turned to ice as understanding dawned. This place wasn't haunted by restless spirits. It was home to something far worse, something that had been waiting in the dark for someone foolish enough to venture down. The thing that emerged from the shadows defied description. It was wrong in every way. A nightmare given form, with limbs that bent at impossible angles and eyes that glowed with hunger that transcended death. Its very presence seemed to drain the warmth from the air, the hope from their hearts. They ran. Their screams bounced off stone walls as they fled through the maze, the creature's pursuit relentless and terrifyingly fast. In their blind panic, they became separated. Each of them now faced the darkness alone, with no way to know if the others were still alive. Maya's lungs burned as she ran, her flashlight beam swinging wildly. She could hear the thing behind her, its movements impossibly quick. Her mind raced through every wrong decision that had led her here. Every moment she could have turned back, but didn't. She found herself trapped in a dead-end chamber, her back against cold stone with nowhere left to go. The creature closed in, its form barely visible in the dying light of her flashlight. Maya's hands found a piece of broken stone on the ground. Not much of a weapon, but she refused to go down without fighting. But then something extraordinary happened. A brilliant light erupted through the chamber. Not from her flashlight, but from the walls themselves. The symbols she'd seen earlier blazed with radiant energy, forcing the creature back. In that illumination, Maya saw the truth. This thing wasn't truly alive. It was the fragmented consciousness of the estate's last owner, a person who dabbled in forces they couldn't control and paid the ultimate price. Their essence had become twisted, bound to this place, trapped in an endless cycle of rage and hunger. For just a moment, Maya saw past the monster to the tormented soul beneath, someone who'd been human once, who'd made terrible choices and now suffered eternally for them. The light grew brighter still, and the symbols began to crack and crumble. The creature let out a sound that was part scream, part sob, before it dissipated like smoke, finally released from its prison. The chamber fell dark again, but the oppressive presence was gone. Maya stumbled through the corridors, following an instinct she couldn't explain, and miraculously found her way back to the basement stairs. She climbed toward the surface, toward fresh air and moonlight, her entire body shaking with exhaustion and relief. When she emerged from the estate, she found the others already there, battered, terrified, but alive. None of them could quite explain how they'd escaped, but each had seen the same strange light that had shown them the way out. They stood together in the overgrown yard, staring back at the building that had nearly claimed their lives. Without a word between them, they understood. They would never speak of this night, and they would certainly never return. The old estate still stands on the edge of Millbrook, slowly surrendering to nature's reclamation. Its basement corridors remain empty now, their terrible secrets finally put to rest. The building serves as a silent monument to the price of arrogance, a warning to anyone who might consider treating the unknown as a game. Some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed. But sometimes, if you're lucky, you can walk away before they close on you forever.